The International Court of Justice holds a hearing for South Africa's argument in its request for further provisional measures to protect the Palestinians in Rafah. The presidents of China and Russia signed a declaration on deepened relations and global partnership to support a new and fairer world order. After the assassination attempt against the Prime Minister of Slovakia, Robert Fico, the Interior Minister declared that the country is on the brink of a civil war and has to ease tensions. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In the Netherlands, the International Court of Justice held a hearing at the request of South Africa, which submitted arguments to the Israeli incursion in the city of Rafah, calling it a genocide operation that threatens Palestinians. On Thursday, South African lawyers started the audience at the headquarters of the highest jurisdiction of the United Nations organization. They seek to sue Israel and order a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. Subsequently, on Friday, the Tel Aviv regime will make known its response regarding the massacre that they have been committing since October 2023. In this context, it should be noted that in January, Pretoria filed a complaint with the ICJ denouncing the acts committed by Israel on Palestine, seeking to prevent further genocidal actions against Gazans. While we follow closely on the updates from the International Court of Justice, let's hear how South African Ambassador Vusi Mandusela introduce their petitions for new provisional measures to protect the Palestinians in Gaza.
Sadly, South Africa is yet again compelled to return to this court in recognition of its obligation under the Genocide Convention due to the continuing annihilation of the Palestinian people, with over 35,000 now killed and most of Gaza reduced to rubble. Despite the short notice of this oral hearing, South Africa has traveled here today to do what it can to urgently stop the ongoing genocide. The gravity of the attacks requiring urgent and speedy proceedings to preserve the rights of the Palestinian people, a commitment which South Africa takes seriously.
Also in this context, the South African diplomat highlighted that it is lack of countermeasure from the international community that has allowed Israel to continue carrying out the present genocide.
Israel is escalating its attacks on Palestinians in Gaza, and in so doing is willfully breaching the binding orders of this court. Israel similarly breaches the binding resolutions of the United Nations Security Council, erroneously believing from the lack of countermeasures by the international community that it is exempt from having to respect international law. This institutionalized impunity has led Israel to engage in this genocide, which has shocked the conscience of humanity.
And international non-governmental organizations on Thursday condemned the Israeli army's assault on Rafah and demand the international community to take urgent actions to stop human rights violations. In a joint statement, UN officials and humanitarian NGOs denounced that despite multiple calls by the international community to the Tel Aviv government to abstain from expanding its ground offensive into Rafah, Israeli troops entered the area on May the 7th. They also point out the significant responsibility that the United States bears from the human rights violations committed by Israel, as Western countries is the regime's main supplier of munitions. Furthermore, The organizations reiterate that Israeli evacuation orders are a grave violation of international humanitarian law. And in Palestine, the 76th anniversary of the Nakba was commemorated. Half a century after the day, thousands of Palestinians are still being displaced from their homes by the Israeli occupation forces, with citizens fearing for their future.
En la Nakba anterior no se sintió.
In the previous Nakba this was not felt. I did not witness it, my family tells me. But now in this Nakba we don't know where we are going. The Jews are insidious. Today a Jewish minister declared that they want to continue displacing us. For them, this land where we are standing is too much for us. In spite of the catastrophes, the destruction and the humiliations, it seems to them that this land is too big for us. They want to take us out of our land, to make everything calm and to stay in our place. This is how the Jews have thought all their lives.
As part of the commemoration of the 76th anniversary of the Palestinian Nakba, citizens recalled the forced displacement of the Palestinian people by the Israeli forces through the years.
I witnessed the Nakba or the catastrophe of 2020 and 2023. I did not live through the Nakba of the 48, but I heard about it from my grandparents. They said that there were forced displacements and many migrations. They also told us about the Nakba of the 67 and all the previous events. But today's Nakba, in which we are displaced, we are inhabitants of the Yablia refugee camp. Our houses were destroyed. Our houses and those of our neighbors were demolished. In our family 11 martyrs were killed. We were displaced to Rafah. We were told that it was a safe area and that it had humanitarian conditions. But in reality in Rafah we saw that we have no hospitals, no water, no electricity. There is nothing here.
The United States Central Command announced this Thursday a new crime against Palestine, an international law consisting on the anchoring of a floating pier on the coast of Gaza. The pier is a facility with capacity for the handling of weapons and ammunition that has been installed by the best ally of the genocidal state that has murdered more than 35,000 Palestinians. In a press release, Washington clarifies that for this operation, no military entered Gaza, while assuring the pier is temporary and that it will act as a privileged entrance for humanitarian aid, with the United Nations in charge of its distribution, in what appears as a clear disregard for the nation's international waters. No Palestinian authorities authorized the construction of the structure. The Islamic Resistance of Iraq reported on Thursday they attacked more Israeli military positions with cruise missiles. Through a communique, they reiterate that their operation will not stop as long as Israel continues with the genocide in Gaza. The Iraqi resistance has carried out a total of 243 attacks against targets of the Zionist regime since October 2023. In this way, a reaffirmation of its approach to repulse the occupation, the group also confirmed the drone strike aimed at a vital Israeli site in the southern town of Eilat. It is worth noting they report on Wednesday that used a long-range all-type assaults against enemy targets in the areas of Jericho Villa and the Navatim air base in Beersheba. Let's take our very first break, but remember you can now join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. The president of China, Xi Jinping, and Russia, Vladimir Putin, signed on Thursday a declaration on deepen relations and global partnership to support a new and fairer world order. This record, a 30-page document, which includes 10 bilateral agreements, was signed by the presidents guaranteeing strategic interaction between the two leading countries. The ceremony of formalization of this agreement, which will increase the leadership of both China and Moscow in the world, took place after the presidents held a private meeting. In this meantime, they highlight the model of friendship between their countries and confirmed that they achieved the eradication of the dollar in 90% of their operation. The Interior Minister of Slovakia, Matus Estok, declared that the country is on the brink of civil war and asked to ease tensions after the assassination attempt against the Premier Robert Fico. Estok appeared in the local news accompanied by the Minister of Defense, who declared that a suspect was in custody. The head of the internal politics reiterated that the attack against the premier was politically motivated. He also called on the country to de-escalate tensions and asked to stop the hard turn immediately before the conflict intensifies. Regarding the Slovakian Prime Minister's health, he assured that his life is out of danger and that he is recovering satisfactorily from his operation. In the same way, Slovak President Zuzana Kaputova calls for an end to a vicious cycle of hatred in the country.
Let's step out of the vicious circle of hatred and mutual accusations. What happened yesterday was an individual act. But the tense atmosphere of hatred has been our collective work.
People outside the Basan Pediatric Hospital, where Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico is staying after being shot, react in horror to the attack.
Sorry that such things are happening in Slovakia. I'm outraged by it, and I'm certainly afraid that such attacks will be repeated. It's terrible. Such cruel things shouldn't happen in this century.
Robert Fico, Prime Minister of Slovakia, began his political career in the Communist Party shortly before the Velvet Revolution in 1989, which led to the breakout of the former Czechoslovakia. In 1999, he founded his center-left Smerch Party after being rejected for the ministerial post by Democratic Left. Fico stated that Russian President Vladimir Putin will not be arrested by the international order if he came to Slovakia. His career, over the past 3 decades, has been marred by the nationalists and anti-Western vision. In New Caledonia, anti-colonialist agitations have reached a standstill after the deployment of heavy military by the French government. An estimated of more than 2,700 members of the security forces have taken over the French overseas territory, according to the France's Minister of Interior Gerald Darmanin, who assured that they will regain control in the next few hours. In the meantime, President Emmanuel Macron has called for an urgent meeting of his defense council. In New Caledonia, a state of emergency is currently in force following a strong protests generated over an electoral reform imposed by the French Parliament. And now we move on. In Argentina, universities rectors demand that the Libertarian President Javier Milei immediately release the funds for higher education expenses. The National Inter-University Council asked the head of state to immediately make effective the 270% increase that the He committed to the operating budget of all national universities. In this way, they stated that only the payment had been made to the University of Buenos Aires and qualified the decision of the executive as inadmissible and provocative. A Guatemalan court granted house arrest to journalist Jose Ruben Zamora, who was sentenced to 6 years in prison on money laundering charges that the journalist himself said are politically motivated. The decision was made by Judge Veronica Ruiz of the Ninth Criminal Court of the Judiciary, who claimed that although there is no flight risk or interventions, the journalists will remain in custody while 2 other procedures against him continue.
En el lugar de mandarme a
Instead of having me killed, they decided to kill me civilly, but to assassinate my reputation, to annihilate my presumption of innocence, and what they did was to expose the regime that we have that is characterized by impunity and corruption.
And the International Organization for Migration confirmed the gravity of the current situation in Haiti, where a considerable amount of the population has been displaced by the violence. Meanwhile, arms and ammunition keep being supplied from the U.S. to criminal groups in the Caribbean nation. According to the organization, in the Glacier community along south of Port-au-Prince, 4,463 people were displaced after the attacks that began on May the 10th. In total, the group represents 1,260 families, 92% of them displaced in Lagoon, Carrefour, and other nearby localities, including the capital. Let's take our final break, but before we invite you to join us on our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on the screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. One financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. On Wednesday in Brazil, President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva announced new assistance measures to address the effects of the heavy rains and floods in the state of Rio Grande do Sul. During a visit to the shelters, the president informed all victims that the government will rebuild the houses lost due to the severe weather conditions that affect 100% of the population. Lula also indicated that those affected will receive a subsidy of $1,000 for material losses. The Bolivian government has authorized the shipment of humanitarian aid to the Federative Republic of Brazil following the floods that killed 149 people in the state of Rio Grande do Sul. The Minister of Defense, Edmundo Novillo, assured that aid will be sent from Bolivia on Tuesday, May the 21st, based on the support and the collection carried out by the several states' institutions. Novillo emphasized that President Luis Arce expressed his solidarity to his Brazilian counterpart, Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva.
Sobre todo en el marco,
especially in the framework of complementarity, in the framework of reciprocity and solidarity. As a Bolivian country and as a Bolivian people, we send humanitarian aid to the brother country of the Federative Republic of Brazil. After learning that due to the heavy rains in Brazil, there have been many floods, loss of crops, damage to homes, and even the loss of human lives that we must regret.
And now, shifting topics, we go to sports, where Venezuelan cyclist Jonathan Suarez was crowned world champion in the cruiser category of BMX racing during an event held in Rock Hill, South Carolina, the U.S. In the division that comprised age 40 to 44 years, Suarez finished in first place, followed in the podium by the U.S. athlete Justin Weig and the Lithuanian Grips Jankes. The Venezuelan cyclist's list of achievements also includes winning gold in the men's category at the 2007 UCI BMX World Championship and a silver medal in the men's BMX at the Pan American Games in Rio de Janeiro. Aims the flooding's impact in Brazil, sports authorities in the country decide to suspend the local football tournament known as Brasileiro. The Brazilian Football Confederation made a decision concerning its competition schedule after the current climate situation in the state of Rio Grande do Sul. The institution accepted the request of 15 clubs out of the 20 playing in the first division to postpone the next calendar weeks, since the priority is to help and support the affected population. And now in culture, a tribute to artist Cesar Rengifo was held by the National Theater Movement that bears his name on a new birth anniversary of this Venezuelan playwright and painter who is remembered for his social legacies. And the Alcorey provides us for details.
The Cesar Rengifo Children and Youth Theater Movement performed a musical on the 109th birth anniversary of this defender of cultural identity.
We are very happy with paying homage to Cesar Rengifo with this show, comprising national and artist elements. You've been able to see all this day that we celebrate the great mission Long Live Venezuela. The artists choose this selection, and it is a sample of national art. And because we will continue dreaming together with Cesar, we will continue fighting for our beloved homeland.
The movement, directed by Pedro Lander, promotes the participation and training of children and young people in the performing arts to raise awareness and sensitivity of all Venezuelans about national art.
It really means a lot. It's like you enter another world. It's an unexplainable experience, and the people who are there at that moment, living it, feel it.
By performing different rhythms, they stage the distinctive sound of the different states of the country.
Well, it's my turn to represent the Tamunangue of the Lara state. The Tamunangue is a black area. You can call it like that. It's a tradition, like a ritual of promise for Thanksgiving. For believers, a man wears a white shirt, a red scarf, a hat of cogollo, they wear baggy trousers, and women just wear floral skirts and white or other colored shirts. I tell you should come and see it, because it's a superb, cool play that we put a lot of strength into it. We gave it a lot of emotion, joy, and we make our best efforts.
Dozens of people recall the birth of the figure who made his work an instrument to make visible the feelings and struggle of the people for a fairer and more united world.
Desde la Cámara de Jesús Romero, Santiago Corey, TeleSUR, Caracas.
And with that story, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, on X, and Instagram as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm from the South, I'm Ana Marrero. Thank you for watching.